Finally here. So good to have you here, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been looking forward to this because David and I, we met up, you remember, back in before the Wellbeing Now Seminar.
Yep.
And it was at Tanya's Cafe. And then we made a wee video because we had the opportunity to. And we shared like a few minute clip of a conversation we had there. And the feedback we had was wonderful. If you remember what we started getting to talking about, it seemed to create a real difference for a lot of people because we ended up going into this area of, okay, how does our mental approach to our healthy lifestyle, how does that affect our results, or our mental approach to things we're doing that perhaps aren't ideally healthy? How does that affect our results? And so you shared with some really interesting stuff based on that, and it was really fun. So I don't know if you want to jump in and share if you remember that conversation we had.
We were talking about, if I remember that particular part, we were talking about whether your thoughts about food having it. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think one of the things I was saying there is, when I first started eating healthier, I'd say until I was in my mid to late 20s even, I was a scientist in the drugs industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. And I had no idea about nutrition. And I think I was maybe 30-ish when I first really learned about nutrition. And I noticed that a few of my friends learned about the same time. And I started to notice people suddenly when they became really healthy, in some ways they got more colds and more other things. I'm thinking, this is completely counterintuitive. How is that? And because I had studied the mind-body connection, what I noticed is it was people's own beliefs about food that were causing the symptoms, some of the symptomatic conditions that they were getting. For example, someone who's totally decided to eat healthy everything. Now, if they just ate a chip or a packet of crisps, all they can think of is how that's affecting them negatively, how that's affecting your bum and your skin and all this kind of stuff. But previously, if you didn't know that a chip was bad for you or a packet of crisps could have a negative effect, it actually wouldn't really, unless you're excessively eating. But for the average person, it wouldn't really make too much of a difference. But your own thinking about it can sway whether it's good for you or bad for you. And it turns out what you think about food actually has, like everything, it has a considerable effect on it. I'm obviously an advocate for eating well. I do have a very good diet, I would say. But I'm also okay with myself if I slip up from time to time.
So when I remember you saying this, actually, the example you gave when, because what people are doing, if they're trying to eat a healthy lifestyle and then they eat that pizza or eat those chips or whatever it is, they start to actually use unknowingly a mind-body connection technique of visualization. In a detrimental way. And you the way you said it, and I remember what this was, it's going to go on my thighs. Or they might fatty food and start visualizing the clogging of their own arteries and start to feel that. So talk about visualization, because this is something that's been really clarifying for me in my own experience.
One of the things that I teach a lot actually is using visualization to create a healthy condition inside the body. For example, you might see the cleaning of the arteries, or you might see a tumour shrinking, for example. Right? And one of the ways I describe that, to back it up, is I use the science that backs up the idea that what you imagine to your brain, even though you're imagining it, your brain processes it as if it's actually happening. So, for example, if you're visualizing, cleaning your arteries, then on some level, your brain is actually processing your arteries being cleaned, or the final outcome, a cleaner artery, right? So when we're visualizing something, we tend to visualize what we want. But sometimes if someone eats an unhealthy piece of food, if they have a generally good diet, but they become so obsessed that they start thinking, I better not try eat any of that old sort of piece of chocolate or anything, then, and the point I was making there was, you eat something fatty and all you can think of is it's going on your thighs. And what you're actually doing is visualizing the actual thing. So for your brain, you're telling your brain this is actually happening. So your brain will then adjust the conditions in your body to give you that what you're imagining happening. Because to your brain, this is what you're wanting to happen. And it works because, when you're imagining something, for example, if I imagine doing that and I keep imagining it, and you were taking scans of my brain, then what you would see, if I was actually moving my finger, you would see the area of the brain connected to my finger muscles. You would see it beginning to grow like a muscle. Amazingly, it grows so fast, actually incredibly fast. It's called neuroplasticity. So if I keep doing that with my finger through neuroplasticity, i.e. the growth of the brain, the area of the brain connected to the finger muscles will start to grow like a muscle. But if I imagined doing it instead of actually doing it, but I just imagine doing it, the same region of the brain begins to grow like a muscle. In other words, the brain will process it and grow regardless of whether I'm doing it or whether I'm imagining it. So let's, extending that into when we're imagining wellness being established in the body, that's a fantastic thing to do. But the opposite of it is when we eat something that we think is unhealthy. Yes, there is an effect, of course, of everything that we take into our bodies, but our thinking about it, what we imagine it doing to us, can also have an effect. So what, in general, let's say the effect of something was here, then your thinking about it can sway it over here, or it could sway over there. So there is no real effect of a thing. There's the effect of a thing, but the range of how it affects you spans from here to here. And that depends on your thinking about the thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's the thought that counts, really.
It's the thought that counts. So you've got this here, this food, this here, and you put it into here in your body. And the effect that this has in here is largely influenced by what we think is happening.
Yeah. Of course, the thing itself absolutely has an effect. You add two ingredients, A plus B, to give you C. So A plus B will always equal C, of course. But how fast A plus B equals C, it depends on what you're thinking, what you believe. And sometimes, depending on your belief, A plus B might not equal C, it might equal D, for example. All I'm really saying is, outside of having a healthy lifestyle, outside of that, what you think about your healthy lifestyle can make it more healthy or less healthy than the actual what you're doing.
Yeah. And this is huge. This is huge for people right now, because we're learning more and more about what's healthy and what's not. We're learning about the toxicity in our environment, the toxicity supposedly within our foods. We're learning about all this stuff. And people can become so highly stressed about what they are eating and what they're not, that they miss, say if people are embarking on a healthier lifestyle, they miss some really crucial emotional experiences of enjoying food. Yeah. And one, of course, is, to actually celebrate and enjoy healthy food as you would do that pizza or whatever that thing is. Because, based on what you're saying, the person that's eating the pizza is going to negate some of the less healthy effects by really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And when people are, okay, I've got to eat this and I can't eat any of that, they're neither enjoying the stuff they are eating, neither are they going to enjoy the stuff that they don't want to eat but indulge in occasionally. And so this is huge, to take the pressure off and to really empower people to benefit from whatever lifestyle they're trying to lead. Yeah.
And one of the things I actually do when I'm eating really good things, like one of my favorite things is blueberries. I love blueberries. I had blueberries probably most mornings, either straight or mixed in smoothies or stuff. I just love the taste of them. But one of the things that I've got in the habit of doing when I take blueberries is actually imagining the little antioxidants sweeping and cleaning out my blood vessels. So like the surge of blueberry juice is going into my arteries, and it's literally going, and it's blowing all the debris and it's cleaning the pipe of my arteries. And it's just something I started visualizing. So now, because it's an automatic thing now. So I think what I'm saying here is, rather than having fears about unhealthy foods, we can actually amplify the effect of healthy foods. If we know what they're good for, we can amplify the effects of them by imagining that very thing as we take the food into our bodies.
Well, this reminds me of, two things, actually. One, it reminds me of when I finally made lifestyle shifts that benefited my my health, I started juicing. And I started juicing based on coming across a guy called Jay Cordich. And Jay Cordich isn't well known in the UK at all, but in the States he is, so much so that Jim Carrey did a spoof of him, which is hilarious. And you've really got to Google that and check that out. But I saw a video of this guy, 85 years old, sharing on this video how he's been juicing since he was 25, and he went into a juice therapy to help treat his cancer that he had. And now at the age of 85, he's making this video, and you see him on the beach playing frisbee with his children that are in their 20s. And the fluidity of his body and his movement was extraordinary. And as part of this video I watched, he started to share his passion for juicing. And he gave this visualization of the idea of the juice, this concentration of nutrition saturating your cells. That was the terms he used. And based on that video and everything else I was learning about the benefits of, plant-based nutrition and these kind of things, I started to juice. And it was absolutely the missing link for my own health struggles. I'd already discovered the mind-body connection in my own way and was becoming more effective at applying in my life. When I brought this in, it changed everything so quickly. But the interesting thing is this: when you're hearing about these stories of transforming people's health, curing this problem, this illness, with lifestyle and with things like juicing or whatever the protocol is, the missing part of the story may be what the emotional experience was for that person while they were doing it. And while I was doing it, I was inspired, I was hopeful, I was informed, I was aware of the benefits of this nutrition. So I was visualizing that, much like you were with the blueberries. I was doing the same things. I didn't really realize I was doing that. It was only when I looked back over it and I realized, well, hang on, I was doing that as well as part of that. And the more I talk to people that have benefited from lifestyle changes, and similar ones or different ones, the more I talk to people, that is actually part of what's going on for them too, and maybe, just maybe, it's the determining factor of whether people will benefit from that protocol or not.
Absolutely. Maybe there's something. In a number of years ago, I went to India, and it was a meditation retreat. It was 7 days in the mountains, in Mount Abu. And it was, lots and lots of lectures and stuff, and lots of meditative time. And I remember being told that the volunteers who are preparing the food, prepare it with love. And as they're chopping the carrots, they're chopping the carrots mindful of the fact that this is nourishment that's going to feed all these people that they call their family and friends. And everything is prepared with love. And we were told this so that when we're eating the food, we're told that what you're eating has been prepared with love. And I remember at the time thinking, isn't this amazing? I'd never come across the concept. This was back in 2001. It was 14 years ago.
Wow.
And I remember eating the food, and I swear it tasted so good. I know that part of that is probably because I knew and appreciated that it was made and prepared with love. But I think there's something about our experience of it, knowing what it is and knowing what's happened in the process. Something about that heightens our experience. And I remember feeling like I was eating love, and it was amazing. And I've never forgot that, until, in fact, I've not talked about it until we're having this conversation. That was 14 years ago.
Wow.
I just remembered, I had never forgot it, but I just remembered that it's such an amazing experience that I had,
Yeah. And of course, we've become so deeper and deeper disconnected with the relationship with our food, actually.
Yeah.
Because when I don't know if when you've grown food, for example, you will experience that appreciation. It's a completely different relationship with the food. If you're growing it or you source it consciously in whatever way, there's a different relationship with that food, which is so beautiful. Yeah. I remember when we started when I heard about this little movement within the health, one corner of the health community, that are looking to source their own spring water. There's actually an online website called findaspring.com where people are finding these springs, which was where we used to would get our water. A lot of them nearby churches and things like that. And I was like, wow, going hunting for water. What a great idea. And we'd go as a family and we'd take Emily and we'd go and we'd get this water in these big glass jugs, and then we'd bring it home and store it all, and we'd use it. and our relationship with water changed completely. And I remember thinking, what a beautiful gift to give to our daughter was this, not just turning on a tap and it's there, but this journey of sourcing this water. And then we never wasted any water. All water was sacred to us.
Yeah.
And there was never any, I have a glass of water and I might leave a little bit. And then a day later, there's some hair or fly on it somewhere. And, that was never done. It was, how simple is that? Just one element, drinking water, something we just take for granted. We do throughout every day. And you change it to a more conscious, a more, more engaged with it personally, and how you come across it, and then your relationship changes completely.
Let me share with you a wee experiment that I did. Now, most people are probably familiar now with the work of Masaru Emoto, the Japanese scientist. And so he would take these photographs of crystals of water. So he would write like love or gratitude or happiness on labels, and then he would freeze the water and use a technique called dark field microscopy to photograph the crystals. And you'd find lots of different crystals, colours and shapes of crystals depending on the word. Well, this must be 10 years or so ago. Now, I didn't have dark field microscopic techniques, but I wondered if you could translate that into biology. So what I did is I tried to reproduce his experiment, but using biology instead of photographing crystals. So what I did is I took little bottles and I wrote love, happy, fear, sad, and some other things on the water. And then I took 3,000 seeds of cress. A lot of cress. Cress sprouts. I took 3,000 seeds of cress and I put 50 seeds in each pot. And then I made 6 pots that I watered. So 6 pots of 50 seeds, that's 300 seeds watered with happy water, 300 watered with fear water, 300 watered with love water and sad water, etc. And every day I watered the seeds. Well, I actually took a syringe to make it really exact, and I took exactly 1 milliliter of water, of happy water, and I watered 50 seeds with exactly 1 milliliter of happy water. Then the next one I did it 6 times. Then I did the same with love water, fear, sad water. And I did this every day. And I kept every other condition constant. And at the end of 7 days, I then measured the height of every single sprout of cress. So I had 3,000 sprouts and lots of other things I was doing. And what was amazing is love water was actually about 8 to 10%. Had the seeds that had been watered with love water was about 8 to 10% longer than the sprouts that I'd watered with fear water. And sprouts that I'd watered, or seeds that I'd watered with happy water, when I compared that with seeds watered with sad water, the sprouts that I got were about 15% taller, watered with happy water versus sad water. Amazing, isn't it?
So this was, just to clarify, you put the word on, but did you also infuse it with, did you say the word, or did you enter into the feeling? I tried not to, because I figured what Emoto did is he just used the word and he put the word on the water, on the cup, for example. And because just your recognition of the word should change your own energy to some extent. Your electromagnetic, it would change your electromagnetic field. We have an electromagnetic field emitted from the heart that goes out about 12 feet, and it's modulated, meaning it varies in size depending upon how you feel. So what you're thinking, if you're thinking of people you love, thinking about people you love, for example, then that field will extend. The electromagnetic field will extend. You can measure it with a magnetometer. And so I did. So rather than feeling it and thinking it, I just became aware of the word. So here I had a bottle, and I took a label that said love. And another bottle had a label that said fear. Another bottle, a label that said happy. A label said sad. And every day out of that bottle, I took 1 milliliter in a syringe, and I watered a pot of seeds of cress. And I did that for love water, fear water, happy water, sad water. And I did it for 6 of each type pot. So that I got, rather than 50 seeds, I was doing 300 seeds to get a really statistically sound result. And I did this every day. And after 7 days, I could actually see the differences in heights of the sprouts.
And the sprouts were about 5, 6 centimetres tall on average. And I measured them all with a little, it took me 8 hours actually to measure 3,000 seeds. And I would stretch each little sprout of cress out over a little ruler and record it 3,000 times. And what I found, as I said, it was about 10% difference between seeds watered with love water or happy water, and about 15% difference in seeds or sprouts that had been watered with happy water versus sad water. And so just my recognition of the meaning of each of those words, I presume, was altering my electromagnetic field, and that was somehow having an effect on the water, and that quality was translating into, and so I don't understand exactly what was happening with the biology, but somehow that change in presumably that change in electromagnetic field was having an effect on the biology or the growth experience inside the seeds, which I thought that was amazing. I did that experiment. When did I do that? 2004. That was about 12 years ago. I did that experiment. I'd actually forgotten that I did that experiment.
And of course, that's something, because I know people that have done the rice experiment where they put the rice in water, I think, and they do a similar thing. So this experiment you've done, anybody listening now could do that. Not necessarily go to the lengths of measuring 3,000 sprouts or whatever it was.
Once a scientist, always a scientist.
Exactly. That's where being a scientist comes in very handy, that kind of diligence. But you could be able to, for yourself, discern the difference in the lengths, and that's something any of us could do, to have a little look at that. And you touched on the electromagnetic frequencies of our heart. I remember I was first told about that, and it sounds like it's, isn't it? It's one of these things. It sounds like it's so kooky and out there, but it's grounded in science. I was first told about that by a guy called Dr. Dorian Dugmore, and he is one of the leading cardiovascular PhDs in the world, from what I understand. He works with Premiership footballers, and all these guys. And I was chatting with him, and he first told me about that, actually. First told me about the work of the Institute of Heart Math. Yeah. And what that does, for those watching who are not aware of that, but I highly encourage you to connect with the Institute of Heart Math and their revelations, is that we have this field that extends around our heart, like David said, and that field will be affected by how you feel. And of course, these fields interact. So if I'm stood in a room with you, those fields are actually interacting. So there's potentially, perhaps, an implication here on picking up on other people's feelings, a phenomenon we experience of feeling what other people feel. Most of, and here's that little bit, ever so recently, we're really honing in on the idea of our thoughts creating our reality, and the inside out nature that's becoming termed as how, it's really how we are thinking and feeling, and we're projecting our thinking and feeling onto our experience of the world. But then there's this little dynamic here that's interesting. Nature is always interfacing with itself. And so we're always interfacing with our environment. And that's just one example. Perhaps it could lead to this idea of actually, picking up on other people's feelings, which makes the whole thing altogether, deeper and more fascinating, I think, because we're just in this time now when we're coming to grips with these different revelations, and I think what we're looking at is a great integration that's going to be unfolding over the coming years, as more and more people become aware of these really interesting things from the scientific world. That's what's fun.
Talking about other people, affecting other people's feelings, a cool little way that you can actually make people feel a little bit better is simply to smile at them. And here's why. When you smile, this is how babies learn this. We have a network of cells in the brain, and it's called the mirror neuron system. So it's mirror neuron system, MNS. A neuron is a nerve cell in the brain. A mirror neuron is the mirror neuron system is the cells in the brain that are specifically involved in mirroring what you see in someone else. So, for example, if I smile, and the muscle here that pulls my lips into a smile, it's called your zygomaticus major muscle. You don't need to know the name, but I like the sound of it. It's Electromagnetic major. It sounds like a character in a sci-fi novel. And then if you're really happy, then this muscle here, the one that we try to get rid of, this little crease here, the crow's feet, this is your orbicularis oculi muscle. And it's a sign of genuine happiness when you have the little crow's feet here. It's funny how we try to inject Botox to get rid of it, and it's actually a sign of happiness, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If you genuinely smile at someone, let's say you see someone who you know, and you genuinely smile at them out of appreciation for, I love who you are, for example. You genuinely smile at them. What happens is their mirror neuron system picks up the movement here, the zygomaticus major, and here, and it immediately stimulates the same muscles in them. You ever noticed why you feel happy around happy people, sad around people who are depressed, or agitated around people who are stressed? It's because of this. So as you smile genuinely at someone, their mirror neuron system copies it. It's like it takes a snapshot, like a mirror neuron. That's what a mirror neuron does. It takes a snapshot of what you're seeing in someone else's face. And then what it does is it stimulates their own smile muscles. That's why you find yourself smiling around someone who's happy, right? It's a reflex reaction. But then what happens is, because that other person smiles because you're smiling, that sends a signal to their emotional brain circuits. And it causes the production of serotonin and dopamine and the little chemicals that make you feel happier in the moment. So just by smiling at someone, you actually can raise their emotional state. So in the same way that without saying a word, you can make someone feel agitated by being stressed, or you can make someone sad by going like that. So we're affecting everyone else all of the time. We just don't notice we're doing it. The whole thing's called emotional contagion. So just like you can catch a cold from someone, you can catch someone's emotion. In fact, you're doing it all the time. And in fact, researchers have worked out that on average, about 25% of the average person's emotional state, averaged over the day, right, has nothing whatsoever to do with your genetics or your what's happening in your life, or even any self-improvement work you're involved in. But it's purely a consequence of the emotional state of the people that you're hanging around with most of that day, and how they feel projecting onto you. So about 25% of the average person's emotional state is caused by the people that you're hanging around with.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing, eh?
Yeah, incredible. And just goes to show, one of my favorite quotes of all time was, be the change you want to see in the world by Gandhi. It's just so perfect. Before anything, embody it. And it just goes to show the influence we can have if we do embody it. If you embody happiness, and you take that into your world and into your circles, into your environment, that the influence that can have is...
Absolutely. It's the point. You work on yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
The more work that you do on yourself, the more that actually translates onto helping other people, because the change in your state, whether you're creating in yourself a deeper and more lasting or consistent sense of peace, or a more consistent sense of happiness, as you do the inner work on yourself to generate that consistency of peace or consistency of happiness, you begin to affect the emotional state of everyone that you're coming into contact with, especially your loved ones, but then the people that you're just impacting upon for moments during the day, for seconds during the day, even people at your work, people that you barely know, that you're just really having a brief interaction with. But that's why they say your own state of consciousness begins to affect the state of consciousness or the emotional state of everyone else around you.
And of course, when you're doing that, if you're embodying happiness, not only is it infectious, but people have the tendency to gravitate to you and be more open, and may even come to points of asking, what is it you do? What is it that's going on in your world that's making you so happy? And then you get to share it. And that's so it happens on so many levels. I do believe that people become so open to you because they really want to feel that. They really want to get an insight as to what it is that's making you so happy. They feel good around you. So it's if we do, as a natural extension of our own well-being, is to want to be helpful to others, of course, and if we want to do that, actually just embodying it deeper and deeper and deeper is really our most powerful leverage point.
Totally agree.
And I love the other thing, about your work, David, which is it's wonderful to have personal insights, aha moments. An idea, a quote like when I heard Gandhi's "Be the change you want to see in the world," it's an aha moment for me. It changed things thereafter. What you bring as well as insights is also leverage points of how you can actually help yourself feel better by doing this, practical tools, through using the body. And if you can share your you shared one to influence others through this mirror mechanism with the smile. What about lifting your own mood, helping yourself feel happy? What can you share there?
Well, you can actually one thing that I absolutely do is use the movement of your physical body, because your brain is connected to your muscles. So I guess it's an extension of, if you smile, the zygomaticus major, this muscle here, it sends a signal to your brain's emotional circuits, and you feel happier. As a consequence, you can use this as an intervention. It's different. Some psychiatrists suggest it as an intervention for mild to moderate depression. You're not pretending everything's okay when it's not. There's a difference between, that's called smiling depression, where I had it years ago. Back in 1994, I struggled with depression for 6 months. I used to come home at night and lie on my floor. I couldn't wait to finish work when I was a scientist. I couldn't wait to get home at night because I just wanted to get in the door, open the door, close the curtains, lock the door. I used to lie on the floor and cry. And I did that for most nights for about 4 or 5 months. But to cut a long story short, hi, Emily. Hi, Emily.
It's David, honey. David, you will love this. So earlier on, before I was recording, so people won't see this if they see a playback of this. Oh, sorry, honey. What?
These?
Yes, honey.
That we didn't know what they were called.
They're
called leg warmers.
Leg warmers. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Grandma just reminded me. She said, "Oh, they're leg warmers," and it just reminded me because I forgot what they were called.
And you told me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I tell David what you said earlier when I mentioned David? Because I referred to you, Emily come in earlier when you weren't here. And I referred to you as Dr. David Hamilton. And Emily went, "Doctor?" I said, "Yeah, he's a doctor." And Emily went, "No, he's not. He's the man."
That's the song of Emmy's little car that we were dancing to. Yeah,
that's right. So when David come visited before, Emily's got this toy car, and it makes the most incredible, happy, upbeat music. So we spent a lot of the weekend dancing to that.
And it's funny that this synchronicity, that actually answers the question. That's actually what I was saying is when you move your body in a way, a light-hearted way, like having a little dance, the movement itself, your brain recognizes the movement as something that you do when you're happy. Right, so the movement itself, because the brain recognizes that, it changes your emotional state, it changes the biology in your own body. So the act of having a little dance like that does actually make you feel better. So it's one of the things that I do. The other one, I've talked about in other workshops. If you want to feel more confident, then you can create the biology of confidence in your brain and all throughout your body by simply standing. Think Wonder Woman. Do the Wonder Woman pose. And just hold that for a couple of minutes. And that's research at Harvard that shows that you can create a more confident state simply by standing in a more confident way. So because your brain recognizes that this is what I do when I feel good inside.
Of course, Emily can't hear you right now. So
can you not?
No, because I've got the earphones on.
Oh, right.
Otherwise, I'm sure. She'd be a lot more engaged with what you're saying. So I'll bring. Here's David to say hello. There you go. We'll be able to hear him now.
Hi, Emily. Hello.
We said lots of things before. But
do you still have that car with the great music?
Yes.
Oh, see, when I come and visit you next week, can I dance to the car again then? I've been looking forward to it. I play it in my head all the time. I keep going.
You're up. We have, I don't know if we've told you, we have up in our, we don't have a family tree, we have a love tree, so we can bring more and more people. And we have these heart-shaped pieces of paper, and we draw people's names on them, and they go on the tree. You're on the tree, David. But there's the picture of the car by your name. Oh, God. Thank you, honey pie. I'm glad you come and told me about those leg warmers, because we couldn't remember, could we? Okay, and I'll see you shortly. Love you.
That was so good. That was so good.
And I remember it still tickles me when I think about it, Dave, because after us dancing for most of the day to that car, you turned around and you said, I wonder if the guy, or whoever it was that came up with that tune, knows about the happiness he's brought to the world.
That's so funny, because I've got it on my phone. I recorded it, the tune on my phone. So I've actually got it recorded. That's so good.
Right on. So yeah, that's because, again, like I say, we do, and it's right. Our inner thinking world, what the thoughts we're bringing to our life, the thoughts we're bringing to circumstances, our inner perception creates our experience. That's absolutely it's true. But there's also these dimensions too. And I think the word you used when it comes to, thoughts and feelings was bi-directional.
Yeah.
And we do, don't we? We have this compulsion to go, okay, this is true. And then we kind of see it as absolutely true. We may miss out on this other element that may really serve us. For example, using the kind of techniques that you're talking about, the standing up straight and affecting your biochemistry that way to feel more confident and all those kind of things. This reminds me also of things we have in another leverage point of things we have in our environment. And I've got a really good example was Donna had this, my wife Donna, she had this intention for being more present, being a more present mother, being more present day to day in her life. But day to day, I was noticing how the Facebook notifications on her phone was drawing her in to this world here, to Facebook. And so, I just asked her the question one day, is that serving you? Because I know you want to be more present and that's your intention. So is that serving you, or is it working against you? She kind of realized, that really is working against me. Once she removed that, she got rid of those notifications. Being present was a lot easier. It's just this, it's really, I think sometimes we put an awful lot of pressure on ourselves when we discover things that work for us when it comes to the inner world of, it's my thinking that's creating this. My thoughts create my experience, all these kind of things. I think sometimes there can be this pressure of trying to reach perfection without utilizing these other resources, without utilizing, the things you're sharing, without looking to our environment and saying, does what's in my environment support me in my intentions, or is it working against me? Because if it's working against you, like you said about being in social circles, if there's a lot of agitation and stress and complaining, all those kind of things, it's a big ask not to slip down that road yourself. And it's a pressure I think we should be, rather than put on ourselves, we should actually look around and say, okay, what can I bring in that supports these intentions? I've got it in here now. I know what I want out of life. But what's going on here? Is it serving me, or if it isn't? Because I know that one experience, the difference for Donna was huge. Just getting rid of those notifications off her phone for the Facebook app.
And talking about an environment that supports you, having Amelie come in to the recording here, that's an example of an amazing, beautiful environment that completely supports you, because the look on your face just when she appeared was just so priceless, really. And I think, we get so, I do it to an extent as well, but you get so hung up on trying to create what you want in your life. And sometimes we forget that there are so many things right in front of you that can really affect how you feel. It can really make you happier. And sometimes we forget to notice what's staring us right in the face. I know it's a well-known thing. You know, people have talked about that. You know, books have been written on it, but I think we sometimes forget it. You know, and as a writer myself, I sometimes forget my own stuff. In fact, not sometimes, a lot of the time. You know, and I love these little reminders from time to time that, God, you know what? You know, I write these daily boosts. I send an email out every day, just like anything from a sentence to 2 or 3 paragraphs. And whatever really comes to mind at the time, I basically write on. And I was writing that the other morning there about, you know, just that importance of just looking around you, right in front of you, because, you know, what you think about the things in your life actually affects how you feel, you know. So if you want to feel happier, that's why gratitude is a route to happiness, because if you start to feel grateful, start to appreciate the people in your life that we sometimes take for granted, and the experiences, the kind of little thing, the tiny little things in our life, and start appreciating them, then it starts to make us feel better. So therefore you've created happiness, or more happiness, without even leaving the house, without going anywhere, doing anything, but simply just looking at what's already here. And these tiny little nuggets of insight are things that all of us, and myself included, forget about. And it's great when you have a little reminder, you know, look at what I have right here. How cool is that? You know? Yeah.
It's, I'd like to share something with that, actually, David. It reminds me, the perfect example of that, and when it was really highlighted in my world, was we nearly lost my brother. So, you know, a few years ago, he had a seizure and he was in a coma. He was actually resuscitated. And everything that happened leading up to that would indicate that his mind just isn't going to be the same. There's going to be damage. He's not, and we didn't know if he was going to make it. He did make it. But we had these few days when he was in the coma. And it was over Christmas time as well. It was Boxing Day where he went into the hospital. And it was singularly, the dust and details of life just blow away when something like that happens, because that's what really matters. You know, the dramas, all of that, it just disappears. And it was just life in high definition. And I was by his bedside praying every day. Deep prayer, entering into a space of just him coming back to us. And we needed a miracle. Incredibly, he woke up one day. Not only did he wake up, he woke up and he was fine. He was absolutely fine. Never got quite to the bottom of what happened and why, but he came back to us. It was a beautiful moment, actually, because I was the one that was there when he woke up. And the nurse said, "Michael," my brother's name, "Michael, do you know who this is?" And he looked over at me and he looked up at her and he said, "Yes, that's my brother," in the most sarcastic voice. and sarcasm has never sounded more beautiful in that moment, because I knew he was back. In that moment, I knew he was back, and I cried. And it was incredible. And I was, that day and for the days and weeks following up, and the next day I was the happiest. I woke up the happiest man on this planet. I was the happiest man on this planet. And I turned to Donna and I said, "You know, I'm the happiest man alive today." And she said, "Of course you are. Your brother's alive." And I said, "But this is the interesting thing. He was alive 4 days ago. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed, except my focus is now on the appreciation for him being in my life, for him being alive." Oof. You know, that's what, and that's it. That's what you just shared. You know, that's for me what it means.
You've just shared, that's one of the most powerful teachings on gratitude I've ever heard. I haven't read even in a book anything better than that. So, you know, that's really moving for me. You know, that really, that's how to teach gratitude. You know, that's how to get across to people. Yeah. Well done, man.
No, thanks, brother. No, thank you for reminding me. It's beautiful. Yeah. Well, you know, it's actually, I guess, a great time to finish up. Except I'd like to share with everyone that we're going to be having David. I'm just so moved, actually. You know, I'm so moved by that moment we just shared. So thank you. Thank you. So we have David joining us, hosting a workshop in a week's time, next Sunday in Southend-on-Sea. We also are so incredibly privileged to have David keynote the Wellbeing Now Seminar 2016 in April the 16th. And I encourage anyone who has joined us here, who will be watching this video back after we upload it, to connect with David in his work on a personal level, because I've lived through debilitating chronic illness from childhood. I know what David has to share works. I discovered it for myself. Discovering David's work has deepened things for me and my own understanding and my ability to utilize the mind-body connection. And, it's a gift, really, David, it's a gift. I was sharing at the beginning that, you were in this world of working in the pharmaceutical industry, and, you were struck and inspired by this and sharing the mind-body connection and what it is, what the placebo effect is, how, it's really something that I feel so strongly. I just want everybody to know.
Yeah. For me, what really was a great shift in the pharmaceutical industry was seeing, you've spent $250 million developing a drug into what you call a medicine. You've spent $250 million, all the testing, all the preparation, the creation, and you're now testing it on people, and like 100 people get the drug and 100 get the fake drug, the placebo, made of chalk or sugar. And you find 75 improve on the drug, and then you get, 65 or 70 or 73 improve on the placebo, because they think they're getting the drug. And it's not a psychosomatic improvement. It's not all in your head. It's a real biological change. You see a change if you're measuring, inflammation in the blood vessels. You'll see an actual change in inflammation. If you're measuring, some other biological thing, you'll see a change in the biology. It's not just a symptomatic psychological. People think of it's all in the head. It's not. There's no such thing as all in the mind. When you believe this is going to help me, what's happening is your belief itself is changing the biology of your brain, and it's changing the biology that's circulating around your blood vessels, that's circulating around your whole body. Your thinking itself is changing what's in your body. And that, for me, that insight when I worked in the pharmaceutical industry was far too powerful for me to be able to stay in the job that I'm doing. What I really wanted to do is find a way to help people to tap into that capacity we have to shift our biology with our thinking. Hence what we've talked about, the power of visualization and gratitude and all these other things. For me, it's all been, so much of it has been about, can we find ways to alter our thinking or what we believe or even what we focus upon? Like, for example, you enjoying that moment with Amelie when she came into the camera shop, that actually changed the shape of your blood vessels. I mean, if we were scanning your body at that time, then you would have produced billions and billions of molecules of oxytocin, and that would have that would have lined your arteries, and it would have caused your arteries to actually go like that, and your blood pressure will have dropped. All that because of your love for Amelie in that moment. And that's what love does. It changes the shape of your blood vessels. And I find that kind of stuff is so interesting. That's the kind of reason why I couldn't stay in the pharmaceutical industry. Not that I don't believe in the drugs, because I do, but because I believe so powerfully that we have such capacity inside ourselves to heal our bodies of so many things. We just have to learn what is the way of thinking, what is the insight I need, what is the way of imagining things that I need that can turn that mechanism on. And so that for me has been a large part of what I've been doing since I left the drugs industry, 15 and a half years ago.
And of course, what we've got, in culture, in our environment, again, is kind of the opposite message. We're being conditioned with the opposite feelings and thoughts. When we've got this incredible ability to heal and thrive that comes from within, we're being told that we're without, and we absolutely need this, that, this, and this. And if all or most marketing is geared towards making you feel lower, but connect with something that you feel you need to make you feel higher. It's when I think about the science of the mind-body connection, the placebo effect, and I hear you talking about that, I also hear the wisdom traditions from our history. I hear the kingdom of heaven is within. I hear go within. I hear the answers are within. I hear all of that. I hear Taoism, and that message, which is the kingdom of heaven is within. You know, the solutions are within. Go within. If we're born into the complete opposite message, and that's everywhere. And so those beliefs are so deep. You know, what's your experience, with leveraging, out those beliefs? What's the most effective way you found, for you? So I know you've written, your latest book is The Science of Self-Love, I Heart Me, and you went through this journey while writing that book, because that the experience of actually feeling self-love is elusive. It's missing, and you wrote this book and went on this journey. So how has that worked to shed those beliefs of I'm without and David's gone. Okay, I need to unlock that and hope he comes back. Hope his connection is back. Wish this has been a powerful one, folks. I love David. What have we been saying up here? I'm gonna see what you guys. Will you be coming to the workshop or the seminar? Come to the workshop. Cool. Oh, so you guys have just been chatting here, huh? Ian Coles, welcome. And a big yay when David has managed to join us. Well, hopefully David's connection is gonna come back to us. What have we got here? Snap Recruit. It says this is your first day on Blab, so welcome. Welcome to Blab. Welcome to this broadcast. It's been, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been fun. I don't know if hopefully we're going to have David back.
Hi, Richie. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, what happened there? My iPad ran out of battery. So I'm currently on my iPhone. I had to install Blab on my iPhone.
Wait, have you got it landscape?
It's can you
stay there? Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm now using my iPhone.
We're gonna get there, Rich. It's been so much fun. You know what? I was just gonna share that our moment then, actually a little while ago, David. It just took me to a space of deep appreciation and love, it's kind of humbling and powerful, and I just so delighted that despite all of the technical challenges, we managed to share this time together.
I know.
It's been wonderful. But if you don't mind, I don't know if you don't mind, I'd like just to maybe, Karen, just a little bit. I'd like to ask you about the new book, and as we were keying up then the idea of leveraging, shifting the lack of self-esteem, the destructive beliefs to feelings of self-love and self-empowerment, those things. Could you share something with us?
Yeah, well, I think my main strategy for this was understanding that we are not born lacking in self-love. We're never born, a young child, a young infant, when it's born, has a healthy sense of self-love. But as we grow up, we unlearn it. And what learning distills down to in the brain is the formation of connections in the brain. So my strategy, and I really did, this strategy was for me personally. Although I wrote a book on it, the book really followed my journey. But I was really doing this because I needed to learn self-love, because it was my greatest challenge, having self-confidence and self-belief, despite my job, as a writer and public speaker, as a job, if you call it a job. Self-love was my most difficult thing. I so struggled with self-belief and self-confidence. So understanding that it boils down to connections in the brain, I figured that I could rewire the brain. And so one of the things that worked so well for me was learning to walk and stand in different ways. When we're lacking in self-love, it's written all over your face. And it also, especially in particular settings, around particular people, particular environments. It comes across in your facial expressions, your breathing, the way you hold your shoulders, the way you walk, and we close ourselves in when we're afraid, for example. So the brain recognizes all this as, this is what I do when I'm feeling small or low or something. So what I taught myself, it took me a good few months, was how to stand in a way that says, you know what, I am enough. And how to move my body and hold my body in a physical way that says, I am enough. And I did it relentlessly. And by doing that, what happens, the more you move your muscles in a particular way and hold your body in a particular way, you start to target the regions of the brain that are controlling your sense of self-love or self-esteem. And what I found after about 3 or 4 months, I noticed a considerable difference in how I felt. I started feeling better from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And all I'd really been doing, without any fancy psychotherapeutic techniques, all I was really doing was, with surgical precision, targeting the regions of the brain that were affecting how I felt about myself. Mm-hmm. Literally by moving my body in a way that the brain recognizes as, I am enough. And therefore the brain tells your biology and how you feel in such a way that you start to feel, I am enough. So that was my major strategy. You know, there's many other things that I did. One, you know, on top of that, I learned the power of having the courage to be vulnerable. You know, that was, they were probably the two biggest things for me, was learning to how you move and hold your body can affect how you feel, and having the courage to be vulnerable and doing it anyway. Is a statement to the universe that, you know what, it doesn't matter if people like me, accept me, love me, nor hate me or anything. As long as I have the courage to be myself, even if that is not shining in the way that you want people to see you, then the fact that I do it anyway, that means I am enough. You know, and under getting that insight, you know, for me, it was a difficult time in my life where I had that insight. It was when my then dog Oscar, who was only 2 years old, got sick with bone cancer and eventually passed away, you know, 5 months later. That 5-month period was the most difficult period of my life, but also the most joyful period of my life, if two so polar opposites can exist at the same time. The difficulty being facing what we were facing with Oscar, but the joy being every moment was so special that we had with him. And, you know, Oscar was my boy, you know, and every moment was so special. And so that 5 months, despite it being the most difficult and stressful, it was really the most joyful because of the moments that I'll never forget. And all that period was a very vulnerable period for me, when I really was not my full self. I really had, I felt like I was weak. I felt, you know, scared and afraid a lot, but deciding that was okay. And that's who I am right now. That's how I need to be right now. And deciding that, doing that anyway, and not trying to pretend to people that I'm super strong and I have all these strategies to get through this, when I didn't. During that time, all the positive thinking went right out the window. You know, I was a wreck during those times. But for me, the breakthrough in self-love was deciding to myself that that's okay, because it's who I am right now. And therefore, the act of just being myself without trying to pretend I was any different, that was a huge insight for me, probably the biggest insight I've ever had in my life. You know, I wish it hadn't come through the losing of Oscar, but that's the way, you know, the deck falls from time to time. And, you know, that was the lesson that I had at the time, was embracing the power of vulnerability and realizing that I don't have to be something I'm not. You know, I can just be myself.
Right on. Over here, I've just seen Kelly Jones here has put some messages that, well, one, she's just started reading your book, as it's already been helping someone she knows, and so she's asked to borrow it.
Oh, nice.
And she says she'll never forget you telling that story at Ignite. And another synchronicity here, David. Kelly actually came to a presentation of mine, and as I was about to begin, it was the first time I was about to share some things I hadn't shared before, and I let everyone know that this is the first time, and there are emotions with it. I've been on the drive here thinking, this is exactly what you're talking about, feeling vulnerable. And I felt vulnerable in sharing it, but I let everyone know, this is the way I'm feeling, and I'm going to share it because I feel inspired to share it. And Kelly, not knowing that we have any connection at all at this stage, has said, I once went to a talk with David Hamilton, and he shared about his dog, Oscar, and he actually began crying in that as he shared that, which I think might have been the first time you shared it publicly. I'm not sure.
It was, yeah.
And it was in that moment, it was it was like having you there with me for moral support, David. So thank you again. And it's the book. I know Oscar was, and your relationship with Oscar is woven into that book, I Heart Me, and it's been, I guess, because it's such a. I guess the book itself is a work of vulnerability that you've shared. I don't know if I'm right in saying that, but
no, you're right. Yeah.
Because of that, when we, when you make the choice to, I'm vulnerable, but that's okay, and I'm going to be me regardless. Well, what's happened is, people connecting with that book in incredible ways, and I'm sure the feedback you've had is just extraordinary, because in this little pocket of people I connect with because of having a connection with you, everybody's telling me about their experience with your book, including my wife Donna, as you know, because I gave it to her for Valentine's Day last year, and it's just been, it seems like a treasure and a gift, that book, David. And
thank you.
Vervet Monkey, this book we're talking about is called I Heart Me: The Science of Self-Love. Oh, someone else has answered the question. Okay, or maybe I already said it. Okay, and the other book that's particularly relevant to the theme of our broadcast this evening is How Your Mind Can Heal Your Body as well. And Cracky Girl says that it's her favourite book, the I Heart Me over here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Cracky Girl. It's also the book that took me longest to write. I normally write a book in about 5-6 months, and that took me 2 years because I had to learn self-love for myself. And I guess I'm a slow learner.
and I love what you said, because you wrote the book, you wrote it, but then it changed. And I love what happened for you there. Yeah,
I wrote it in my usual 5 months, and then Hay House rejected it. It's the first of my books. I met with the MD, and she said, we all love you in the office. And I went, oh dear.
No.
She said, well, I'd love to accept this book, but I just can't, because if we publish this book as it is right now, it will be, and I quote, it will be damaging to your career. That was a rock. That was a real challenge to my self-love at that time. But Michelle was absolutely right, and we had a long conversation there. And then she said to me, take as much time as you like. The problem was I was trying to write a book about self-love, and I was doing it in my head, intellectually, and I hadn't really learned. I hadn't got over my own difficulties. And so that's why it took me 2 years, because Michelle said to me, Michelle Pilley, the MD at Hay House, she said, take as long as you like. And I took another year and a bit. And I learned self-love. And that's when I learned all the vulnerability stuff and the body language stuff. And that was such profound breakthroughs for me that, what was, striking in timing is Oscar arrived in my life on the week that I started working on that book, and he passed away on the week that I finished it.
Wow.
Yeah, and how about that for divine timing,
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that he came into my life to teach me how to love myself. And once I had learned enough, not that there's always more to learn, but once I'd learned enough, he was leaving regardless. It was time to go. And despite all that I knew about cancer and how to treat cancer, all the knowledge I had, there's nothing we could have done to save his life. In fact, he was going anyway. And that was the difficult, that was the thing. And the timing was just so spectacular. I mean, he bookended. That's why I dedicated the book to Oscar, and I wrote the afterword. Michelle at Hay House actually said, we're going to hold the publication back until you've got over Oscar a little bit so that you can write an afterword about his life, because he played such a big part in my life. So she held it back for a month, you know, and that's an amazing thing for a publisher to do, just so that I could write a chapter at the end about what Oscar's life taught me and what I learned, really. So you know, he was he was the most influential being that's ever been in my life. If people talk about angels in the life, of Oscar was my angel, you know, and he came into my life to teach me. And, you know, it's just the way things go sometimes, but I think about him all the time. That's why he's my little icon on my Facebook page and my Twitter and stuff. Yeah.
It's beautiful, David. It's really beautiful. And I just want to say before we go, because this is a wonderful place to leave things on, you are so uniquely loved. It's something that brings me so much joy when someone says, "Well, who's at the Wellbeing Now?" So I remember the first seminar part, and people say, "So who's on?" And every time I say David Hamilton, I see the same smile on different faces, you know, and it's so much warmth is there, and the same thing. Oh, I love him, and you are a gift and a treasure, my friend, and this latest book really truly is. My wife's read it, I've dipped into it, and it's beautiful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm so glad we got here together, despite the challenges, and I look forward to seeing you next week, my friend.
Thanks. I look forward to it, Richie. Thanks for sharing this time and these amazing insights that you've shared as well. Thank you. Lots of love.